electricity is always the first, or should I say the last to be load shedding or to any power cuts. There's a reason they do that, because the industry pays. So I think it's Eskom as well as because I mean the industry pays lots of electricity.
I am in no means an expert on talking about electricity, Eskom, the economics of how it actually works. What I can tell you from a common perspective is that Eskom is not working, period. And I don't need to be an expert to tell you that it's not working.
The thing is, why isn't it working?
I think that it's a topic that, because there's so many different moving pieces in this whole conversation, is that there's too much wrong with it right now. I think one, it's being that it's a government entity, there's too much corruption and nobody knows who's running the show at Eskom. You understand? We have people that are spokespeople, but in terms of what goes where, or who goes who, and stuff like that, it's difficult. It's hard to unpack because you don't know where to start. Where do you start? Do you start at the grassroots? Do you start at the power stations? Do you start at the infrastructure? Do you start at the management? Do you start where municipalities are still owing Eskom money? How do you unpack? Or do you even start at the point where Eskom owes billions of rands? Where do you start? And I think that's why it becomes so difficult to understand that this is a humongous problem. The next two questions I have are production and workflow. I know you covered it, you spoke briefly on it. And I agree with you 100% because I think that ultimately if there is no production and there is no proper workflow, it disrupts everything. Because not only you as an employee or employer, you are affected because your bottom line is now affected. How do you run a successful company if you're not sure whether you're going to have power or not have power? I understand we have stages of load shedding from stage 1 all the way to stage 10, which I understand stage 10 is like a full day of no electricity. And stage 2, that's 2,000 megawatts and so forth. But I mean, how do you run a successful country if you have a big power utility that cannot basically give the people what they need? It's difficult.
There's no way you can do that.
It's difficult. I don't know. The question that we were discussing earlier on in the studio was stability in Eskom. I'm going to pass this question on to you as the audience. If you're listening, you can interact with us on Anchor. There's a platform that you can send us direct messages as well. But I've also set up a WhatsApp number on the very first podcast. You guys can go to that. You can WhatsApp me. You can voice message me on that podcast. I mean, on the WhatsApp, and we can talk about it. I personally don't think that, in my opinion, there is any stability in Eskom right now. I think there's no trust. I think there's no solution. I think it's a problem that the whole country has unfortunately fit the bill for. What do you think?
The thing is, my only concern is why is it happening? Is it happening because of maintenance, as they say, sabotage, or is there something behind this whole load shedding?
And there's one to think about.
Privatizing, as they say, that's the topic. Is this being done deliberately?
I can tell you one thing that everybody's talking about right now. This could have not come at a worse time than right now. I mean, we're in the most, how does the song go? It's the most wonderful time of the year. Can you imagine Christmas morning, you getting up, you're sharing your gifts with your family, your children, and guess who comes to knock on your door and say hello? Just as a reminder, it's me, Eskom. It's stage 2. Just give me 2 hours. On Christmas Day, can you imagine the look on every single South African's face? On Christmas Day, we're having load shed, rolling blackouts. I think that's really unacceptable.
Where people usually spend hours and hours and hours cooking, preparing a lunch for families.
That gammon will take extra long this year, I can tell you that much. So definitely stability in Eskom is something that, I don't know. About 10 minutes ago, there was a press conference, live press conference, a huge meeting with government officials and people in charge, and our government had a lot to say. I don't know the full story. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't think that'll be right, but I do know that the conversation was about this issue. I mean, it's gone on for too long, and people are really, really, really upset. This is past the point of embarrassment. I think you can agree with me?
Yep, too much. Yes, it is.
And then I'm going to pass another question to you, Calvin. How does this affect you as a normal citizen in South Africa? How has it affected you currently in this last week?
Well, okay, my issue is that I haven't been following the schedule. I think the reason for that, I've been busy with my own stuff, but sometimes I would it's like, I mean, it's so frustrating. You get home and your food is cooked. You gotta eat cold food. There's certain things you gotta do. I mean, look at studying. You gotta study. I mean, you can't study at the candlelight. You gotta test the next day. So, with me, that's very frustrating. It's lots of time lost. I mean, with me, as I say, I also I work. I do some to make money on the side. So, if I don't have electricity, I can't do anything.
You brought up a valid point there. I think if we can just dissect how it affects all of us. I mean, imagine all the parents with small babies. How does it affect them? Imagine small businesses. How does it affect them? I've seen in my area companies with generators just to get through that period. And that might be the most busiest period for them. And in that particular time on the schedule, guess what? It's Eskom. I'm here to switch the lights off.
And let's be honest, 2019 has been a bad year, especially for small businesses. It's been a very bad year.
Growth-wise, it's really affected us.
It's just, I mean, you're coming into the December, we are in December, the festive season where people really need money. People use lots of money, want to take vacations. Some people want to do whatever they want to do. They want to refurnish or buy furniture or buy stuff, for their homes. Sorry. And then, I mean, then you get your load shedding, where you're going to actually lose money in this time. Money that you were supposed to at least earn, get some money. Now you're going to hold back on things that you want to do because now you're actually losing money. So you can't really spend.
I think overall, as we discussed in the beginning of this podcast, this is a humongous issue. It's ISO, it's a humongous problem. Imagine, for example, or just imagine for a moment, how does the tourism industry suffer with, I mean, this is a time of the year where a lot of people from overseas flock towards Cape Town. I can tell you one thing from my personal experience is that I hate going home in the afternoon because I don't know whether we're going to have lights or not. And God forbid there must be a intersection where there's no metro police, where there is no electricity. It is a humongous problem because something that would have taken you 5 minutes to get through is now taking you an hour. Because people don't know the system. Sometimes you forget that it's a four-way stop. And I mean, we're talking about peak traffic here, Calvin. We're not talking about your minor lunchtime traffic. We're talking about your traffic. We're going home, my friend.
I mean, let's be honest, as you're saying tourists. I mean, you're getting tourists from like America and you're getting like UK. Those people don't know anything about power cuts. Unless there's some sort of heavy storm that's, but they don't know anything about power cuts.
Yeah.
And how frustrating is that for them to come to a country where they're going to have power cuts? I mean, would anyone want to come back to a place like that?
I think it's an interesting story because I think when you go back to your home and you're from overseas, you can tell your family or friends that you've experienced something that you might have never experienced before. A country that has daily, 2 hours at a time, power shortages. I don't know, some people are making fun of it, some people are talking about it, actually it brings people together. I don't know, but what I do know is I want to tell you that we're going to go to ENCA for a short story, or the actual footage, or actually a video, but it's in a form of an audio for the podcast that I want you to listen to. This sheds a bit of interest and shares a bit of truth to what's actually happening in our country and how we're all affected by it. So stay tuned. We're coming back straight after this message from ENCA. Okay, let me press pause here.
Speak to its spokesperson Isaac Mangena. Isaac, good evening. And I suppose, Shame, you will be facing the brunt or be the messenger that's being shot in the middle of all of this. Tell us about the rolling out of stage 6 load shedding. How's it working at the moment?
Yeah, we have received a notice from Eskom about the plans to move to stage 6 of load shedding. And as we have been, even with stage 4, we're first obliged with that. But we have since not moved from stage 4 as City of Johannesburg, as City Power, because of, I think there is still some capacity that we can still be able to share to share with our customers. So we are not yet at stage 6 at the city.
About facts. So why do you think this is really happening?
With me, maybe it's because it's something that will affect me directly. Is these what they call in prescribed investments, if I'm not mistaken, where they want pension funds, provident funds, to invest a certain percentage in SOEs. And I mean, nobody wants to invest in something that's failing. So, is there a way they're looking for a bailout? Because I mean, tax, they're over pushing with the tariffs on electricity. It's getting too high. Well, they're all increasing it again, but eventually it's going to get too high that,
it's not going to be sustainable.
Market can't tolerate it. They'll push it until we can tolerate. When they see that we don't tolerate it anymore, then that's when they'll stop us. With me, I think the actual fact is that all that prescribed investment and privatization of those SOEs, that's what I think it is.
It's interesting. I never thought about it like that, to be honest with you.
I think it's private. They want to privatize those SOEs. That's all. I mean, why is it that Patrice Motsepe all of a sudden has invested in renewable energy? The brother-in-law of our Mr. President. Just like
so are you also trying to say, in your opinion, that it might be politically motivated?
Yeah, politically motivated to get rich. You get someone rich. I mean, that's what's happening in government anyways. Let's be honest. That is what is happening. I scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Government, some people might say that what you're saying has no basis, it has no truth to what you're saying. Some people might say, I don't know. I know this is your opinion, but I mean, do you honestly really think that every single politician that's in power wants to make a quick buck on South Africa? And I'm sorry, I am being sarcastic.
Well, at the end of the day, everyone wants to galvanize themselves against poverty. Another thing is
but I'm sorry to interrupt you there. Where do you draw the line on enough money is enough money? How much money do you need from what you currently make from your position in government, salary-wise?
The thing is, that's the thing. Money is never enough for people. People are never satisfied. That is the thing. Humans in particular are never satisfied. There's no satisfaction for a human. They are never satisfied. They always want more. It's just that some want money, some want
position and power.
Some just want more out of their family life. Some, but
there's always that next more. I hear you. Calvin, the next question I want to find out from you, in your opinion, and I'm gonna jump on this one as well. What can we do? What can we do about what's happening right now in our country? What if you had to stop someone in the street and they ask you this question? What can we do as South Africans regarding this problem right now that we're facing?
In fact, what we can do is just, we need to get this government out. That's the honest truth. As South Africans, we need to get this government out. That is all. I think that's the best. I mean, they've been failing us. I mean, come on.
In some way, I'm gonna have to agree with you, yes. But and a part of me is saying, okay, let's really look at this, Calvin. All right, the government is to blame because they're the ones in power right now. I am, as a person, let's blame them for a minute. I'll tell you why I say this. Let's blame them for a minute. I'll tell you why. Yes, we're told every 5 years, whenever we go to the polls to elect or to decide who we're going to make the president or the party, the ruling party, as we always told from the previous party or cabinet or leadership that we will make it right. Just give us some time.
Exactly, and we believe
time comes and goes, and then the new people that have been elected blame it on the previous generation. I don't know if you can't say generation, but the ones that came before them.
Yes.
And for me, I'm saying right now, they to blame, because if you don't know what you're doing, and here's my philosophy, and this is my opinion, if you don't know what you're doing, step aside. We don't have the time and the patience in 2019. Next year's 2020, Calvin. We don't have the patience, we don't have the time for someone to learn on the job. We need people that know the job. Some people might say, honestly, no, but Sadiq, that is unfair.
It's enough. Okay, you've made your promises from 94 until when do we say it's enough? No more promises out. I mean, come on, man. A person stabs you in the back, or they stab you in your head, wherever, and they say sorry, like, I'll never do it again. I mean, you trust that person over and over. I mean, the problem with the South Africans is we happy.
We're tolerant.
Little bit.
You think so?
A little bit, and we're happy.
I think there's a fair percentage of people who are saying, you know what, I'm one of those people. We need to stand up and say enough is enough. I mean, right down from Eskom to whatever other problems we might have, which are quite a few. We need to say enough is enough and take a stand. And stand for that and let us make the change. Because I think that is ultimately where the change will come. Because I think that we are tolerant as a nation. We are patient. And yes, there's a huge amount of us that are gullible, that will believe anything. I mean, yes, we've heard the story about Eskom way before Ramaphosa was in power. Way before he was in power, that Eskom will turn around. And right now we have the worst case of Eskom. It's a side of Eskom I've never seen. I think like Eskom is the Joker. You know, in Batman Returns, the Joker, he's a guy with a funny smile, and he's just a bad guy. You know, there's nothing you can do. He's saying trust me, but you can't trust the Joker. He's a Joker.
We continue to.
My advice, and to answer this question, is I think that we, like I said, take a stand and let's choose a side and let's go with it, and let's make sure that we can do the best by our side to make a change for the country, because I think that is what it ultimately boils down to. It's not really the government that makes the decision, it's all the people standing together and saying this needs to stop. Enough is enough. We've drawn a line, that's it. We can't have stage, I mean, do you draw the line after stage 8? We've just got 6 for the first time ever. Stage 6, do you want to get 8 and 10, load shedding schedule, and then like, okay, you know, now enough is enough. For small businesses I mean, huge businesses are affected, Calvin. Can you imagine if the whole airport, Tambo comes to a standstill? No flights can come in, no flights can go out. What happens to the flights that are inbound that need to land? Now, I understand it might be a stupid question, because they do work on generators, of course. But imagine a full day of no electricity. How does the airport function? How do you keep the air cons running for all those people coming in and coming out? That is the embarrassment of what's happening right now. I mean, we have it in SAA. You know, it's like every single government, business, enterprise that has been affected by corruption somehow doesn't seem to be functioning well. Let's have a look very quickly before we end the podcast. SABC, yes or no? Affected?
Affected.
Eskom, definitely. That's the topic of today. Who else? SAA, affected.
SAA as well.
Transnet, government, not affected, affected?
No, Transnet is affected.
Has been affected.
Yeah, it's been affected.
Which are the big one? I know there's another big one that we're missing out. But needless to say, these are the companies in power by the government that SARS affected. And it doesn't just affect you and I, it affects everybody in the country. You know, it's always this continuation of we need more, we need to pay more tax, we need to pay more. I mean, ultimately, food is at an all-time high. Cost of living is at an all-time high. How do you make sense of that? Unemployment is at an all-time high.
Well, that's the worst.
So again, where do we draw the line? We need to take a stand. Our country is on fire. It's burning. Or as it burnt, I don't know. I think we'll pass this question on to you in the podcast. What do you think? Let us know your thoughts. WhatsApp number, the very first podcast. I'm urging you to go to the first podcast. Ultimately, if you're part of Anchor or Spotify, there's a little portion on the platform. Just tap that. You can send us a voice note. Let us know your thoughts. And I promise I'll put it in the very next podcast. So we already touched on a question that you and I already spoke. And this is one of the second to last questions. Is it political? And I know you touched on it, but just if you want to remind us, you said yes, it might be politically motivated.
I think it is. Yes.
I don't know, because there was a conversation not so long ago, Calvin, that Eskom should stay a state-owned company. It should not be privatized. It shouldn't be split up. It shouldn't be cut up into different sections and be sold to private companies.
Yeah.
So then it's kind of like contradictory, because we have two different sources here. One is saying yes, SOEs are saying let's privatize it. Other portion is saying let's not divide Eskom because it's a state-owned company.
Yeah, well, in that case, yeah, it's true. But at the end of the day, when you show that being an SOE, it's actually failing, what do you do? I mean, look at our last month's bills. I mean, what do they want us to cry foul and say, no, privatize this thing. You can't pay bills like that.
I think it does affect a common person. I think if you boil it down to the cost of living.
A problem with last month. Last month, I mean, it was like almost nationwide.
While you're on the podcast, if you've been affected by your municipality, wherever you're listening to on the podcast, let us know. Tell us, what do you think? You think that the Eskom bill, the municipality bill that you receive for your household is ridiculously high? Something's wrong? A friend of mine said to me the other day, I'm not going to mention his name, that, you know what, something's up with this municipality bill. It doesn't seem to be adding up when I add it up. I don't know, you tell me your thoughts, give me your thoughts on the podcast, let us know. It's interesting to interact with you guys, so just let us know what you think on the podcast. Eskom predicts that in 2025 we'll still be load shedding. That is scary. Calvin, we're talking about the next 5 years of our lives. How does business grow in the next 5 years? If you've got a 10-year plan to grow your business, forget about it, throw it out the window, because I can tell you now, Eskom's not going to share that information with you, how they predict that in the next 5 years you're going to have 2025 load shedding schedules. I don't know. Can you as a South African hold on for 5 more years of this nonsense, utter rubbish? Yeah, I think it goes for all South Africans. I think we all can manage that. We're going to end the podcast here, and the last question that we were talking about earlier on is this potentially sabotage what's currently happening in Eskom? Are there people out there that are just out to sabotage the infrastructure, the integrity of Eskom, to make Eskom look bad to every single South African? Or is it the truth that the writing is on the wall and Eskom is Eskom? Like I said, Eskom is the Joker and you can't trust the Joker. Everybody knows you can't trust the bad guy in the movie. I don't know, you give us your opinion, let us know what you think. Tell me what you think about the podcast. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends and family. You can get it on Spotify. There's quite a number of podcast platforms. And right now, this podcast is on. And I hope that this podcast trends for all the right reasons. So thank you so much for listening. My name is Cedric Harvey. For whatever the case, my good old friend, Calvin McKay. We out. We'll see you guys in the next podcast. Peace.
Enjoy. We out.
Thanks, my bro. You're holding in that cup. Hey? You were holding in the cup.
Thanks.
So, listen, I didn't do an intro for the podcast for my channel on YouTube. I'm sorry about that. What you can do is just go to Right. I think it's go to my channel. Welcome to the podcast. I know it's the ending of the podcast. We're talking about Eskom. We're talking about how it affects every single person in the country. So thank you so much for listening to the podcast. This was a live feed, but we've dropped it on later. Thank you so much for coming through, listening to the podcast. In the link below, you're going to find all the information regarding what we discussed. If you want the questions, I'm going to jot down the questions in the bottom. If you're going to be part of it, just comment below on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to be honest, be kind. Always be yourself, never give up, and thank you. This is Cedric Harvey for whatever the case may be. Peace out. This is recording.